Барес сейчас очень-очень близко. Медленно совершенно.
Und Notfall, da ist er! Da ist es passiert! Das ist das Karriere, der womöglich zu Ende geht. Und Alvarez macht es! Und jetzt ist es vorbei! Elena Alvarez schlägt Sergej Kovalev und ist Weltmeister!
Absolutely tremendous when 6 rounds of KOVALEV was shown us here tonight. That was the plan, but best laid plans don't always result.
Welcome to the motherfucking replay where we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, Lance Pugmire tweeted, just told that the quote-unquote dream bouts under Bronze Bomber versus Tyson Fury at the Staples Center would be a Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell Jr. featherweight unification fight and an Abner Mares versus Gervonta Davis title fight. That would be an epic pay-per-view.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yes, that would be a very good pay-per-view. It would be. My problem is that it would be, and we still don't know if it is. A ray of hope here is a tweet from Gervonta Davis in which he states that he's fighting on December 1st. Coincidentally, the fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder is supposed to be in December, early December. So, perhaps the fight is finally starting to come together. I'm not sure. My biggest issue with this entire scenario is that the talk of the fight was very proactive talk. Very, oh, well, the fight is all but done, yada, 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 giving the impression that the process would be a speedy process. That these things would come together fairly quickly.
That was weeks ago.
But as it stands, it's been anything but quickly. We don't know.
Been a month.
We're hearing, announcements about announcements. We're hearing comments about dream fights instead of fights, where we're supposed to be hearing about fights. What I'm getting at here is,
what's going on?
When the news first broke that these guys intend to fight each other, supposedly, when the news first broke, a lot of people were very skeptical about it, and we've covered the reasons. That Tyson Fury, he really hasn't
convinced people that he's ready.
He hasn't had enough tune-ups for some people to convince them that he's ready to be involved in a fight like this. And it's for that reason that people aren't sure if this is even real. That essentially there are a lot of skeptics out there, and those skeptics were met with anger
by Wilder's fans.
By Deontay Wilder's fans. His fans think that, oh, y'all just hating on the fight. Y'all don't want Wilder and Fury to fight. Y'all trying to shit on it. And it's a lot of crybaby ass shit because the only reason that people are skeptical is because, one, it's a bad idea for Tyson Fury to take a fight like this.
It's goddamn soon.
Under these kinds of circumstances, it's a bad idea and it makes you wonder if he actually intends to do it. Two, Tyson Fury has pulled out of fights before. He pulled out of the Klitschko fight when they were supposed to have a rematch. Remember? Three, we don't have anything official. There's nothing that is set in stone. Boxing is a very fluid sport, and the news in boxing is even more fluid. Things could change day by day. So when you don't have something official, when it's not set in stone, that makes it very hard to believe, given all the aforementioned details. That, are you guys sure these guys are gonna fight? All I'm saying is, there's a reason to be skeptical, There's reasons to have your reservations. There's reasons to say, you know what, I won't believe it until I see it. There's plenty of good reasons to feel that way. And I myself, I stand by my original contentions, my original opinion, my original perspective. If they're gonna fight, if they do intend to fight, then I'll believe it when I see it. But for now, yes, I do carry around a healthy amount of skepticism because Deontay Wilder just so happens to be the same guy that said he wasn't going to sign a contract because there wasn't a date and a venue in it, and yet, the date and the venue for this thing, it really doesn't seem finalized, any more finalized than what Hearn proposed. But supposedly this thing is going down. All I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with being skeptical, because as it stands, you know what? The fight date really hasn't been announced. And the venues, they're not finalized. They're just naming front runners. Things that are ethereal, things that really haven't materialized yet. So if you're getting pissed off, it's not because I'm throwing shade or I'm being a hater. You're getting pissed off because you're a Deontay Wilder sycophant. Your asshole pulses whenever you see that guy. So you get mad at anything that doesn't sound like praise. You get upset when people say things like, you know what, I don't really know if they're gonna fight. I find it hard to believe, and I'll believe it when I see it. That kind of shit makes you mad, even though that shit is normal, and it's you that's abnormal. I mean, you really gotta love the short memories that people have when it comes to the sport of boxing. People have some fucking short memories. You know, I remember Tyson Fury walking into the ring after a Deontay Wilder fight and calling him a fucking bum. I don't remember Deontay Wilder's being so fond of Tyson Fury then. I remember Deontay Wilder calling Tyson Fury, this is an act. This is all WWE stuff. I remember when Wilder said that shit. Do you guys? So, Anthony Joshua's career progresses. He becomes very popular in his backyard. He becomes the man to beat in the heavyweight division. He becomes that. And suddenly, these two guys, they stop attacking each other. They start talking about each other in a positive light. And to most people, like myself, it seemed to us guys that, I see what it is. You guys are gonna use each other to try to draw attention away from him. I mean, at minimum, that is what's going on here, Whether these guys are fighting or they're not fighting, and this is just a publicity stunt, either way it equates to the same thing. That you guys are using each other to take away attention from him, to take away from his luster. That you guys essentially have let our powers combine. That's what the fuck's going on. Whether you guys are fighting or not, that is what you're doing. And because that's what you're doing, at minimum, that is what's going on. And because at minimum, that's what's going on, this appears like a publicity stunt to some people. There are people out there that are convinced that these two guys aren't gonna fight. This is all bullshit, and one or both of these guys is gonna try to find a way out of this. Because as it stands right now, we are several weeks from Tyson Fury's last fight. We're several weeks from that, but we have no official announcements, no official dates, no official venues. And after Deontay Wilder threw the tantrum that he threw, because Hearn sent him a contract that didn't have a date and didn't have a venue. After having the titty attack that he had over all of that shit, and to see this, that, you guys don't have a date and a venue finalized here either, but Wilder's not bitching and moaning about it, so what the fuck's going on? It gives you the impression that, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. I don't know if you're being, I don't know if you guys are gonna fight or not, but you clearly have a different demeanor with Tyson Fury and Frank Warren than the one you have with Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua. You spent all that time attacking Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua. Yet supposedly you're going to be fighting Fury and you're not attacking him. You're not attacking his character. Supposedly you're going to fight him. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. In other less high-profile news in the heavyweight division, Charr shocked as positive drug test cancels Frez Oquendo fight. WBA regular champion Manuel Charr will not defend his belt next week against American challenger Fast Frez Oquendo after a suspect doping test by the Syrian forced the fight to be canceled. His management said on Thursday, Charr's A sample from an August 31st test showed 2 suspect substances, and due to timeline constraints regarding the opening and testing of the B sample, the bout is now canceled. According to The Sun, Charr came up positive for anabolic steroids, epitrenbolone, and man, look, it's a lot of fucking letters in that word. Now, as you can imagine, Manuel Charr is denying any foul play. Charr denies that he took any illegal substances voluntarily and claims that some form of contamination must be the cause, and questioned why he would need performance-enhancing drugs to fight a 45-year-old boxer with 4 years of inactivity. I cannot explain it, and I'm asking myself how it could happen. The fighter who lives in Cologne told the Kölner Express newspaper, I have never taken anything. I fought Vitaly Klitschko and Alexander Povetkin. 7 title fights, and I was always a clean athlete. Why would I take something before a fight against Frez Oquendo? The 33-year-old Charr, 34-1, had won the WBA title against Russia's Alexander Ustinov last year. Now here's the thing. In case you're wondering why Frez Oquendo is even involved in a title fight, it reads, Oquendo has not fought since losing a decision to Ruslan Chagaev in July 2014. He would later win an arbitration order, which forced another title shot. Oquendo was scheduled at one point to fight Shannon Briggs for the vacant WBA regular title, but that contest was also canceled after Briggs tested positive for a banned substance. Boy, I'll tell you, Frez Oquendo must really be the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. The way every time he's up for his title fight, somebody ends up testing positive. I mean, these coincidences are astounding. Essentially, if Fresakendo is being afforded a title shot, it's because the WBA owes him one. They literally owe him one. But the fact that he would still want one after 4 years of inactivity, that's even stranger. You know, I'll say this much. I'll play devil's advocate. Manuel Charr does have a bit of a point. So you're gonna... do you really need performance-enhancing drugs to fight Fresakendo? The guy hasn't fought anybody in 4 years. It's a valid point, but it's besides the point. Because no matter what, they found something in your system, and you're tasked with explaining it. But what's even stranger than that is that Fresakendo actually wants the shot. I mean, he hasn't been fighting. You know, you're retired. He's listed under BoxRec. I imagine that BoxRec has Fresakendo listed as an inactive fighter, because he's well within the statute of limitations to be listed as an inactive fighter. You haven't fought anyone. You're 40-something years. I don't understand it. This fight was flying largely under the radar. This was not a fight that anybody was checking for. But the relevance of this fight is that Jarrell Miller was targeting Manuel Charr because he's the WBA regular champion. Jarrell Miller made it a point very recently, and I'm sure some of you heard it, that he wants that belt because he felt that winning that belt would get him leverage in future situations. He might be right. He might be. You know, I don't, I talked about it. I'm not going to get all the way into it because I already talked about it. But the fact that now Manuel Charr's fight with Fresakendo is canceled, that leaves a big question mark. I mean, essentially what we should expect is that the WBA is going to strip him. That's what we should expect. That would be the next course of action, in which case, where does that leave Manuel Charr?
And that WBA title.
You know, is he going to be suspended for 6 months, a minimum of 6 months to a year? Is that what we're going to see next? I feel like that's what we should expect, in which case, let's go over to the WBA ranks. When we get a look at those ranks, the next man in line is Trevor Bryan. That's the pecking order. And he last fought in August against BJ Flores. He won that fight by technical knockout. Now, I don't know if this guy's available on short notice to substitute for a Fresakendo fight. And the other issue with that is, who's actually going to put that fight together? Who cares enough to orchestrate that fight for what is a baby belt? So, just because Trevor Bryan's sitting right there, I don't know that it'll be a Trevor Bryan versus Fresakendo fight. We look a little further down those ranks and we see Povetkin, who is the mandatory for Anthony Joshua's major title, so obviously he's out of the conversation. And then we see that, you got Fresakendo and you got Jarrell Miller. But the thing about that is Jarrell Miller is he's already booked. He's participating on a card against Tomasz Adamek. So I guess, I guess he's out. At least he's not available right now. And then beneath him is Dylan White, who just fought Joseph Parker. He's on a career high. So, should we expect Dylan White versus Fresakendo?
No.
I mean, is that fight even worth... it's a whole thing. And what's bizarre about it is, because Fresakendo is owed this title shot, unless he just passes on it altogether and says, you know what, I'm fucking old. Unless he just passes on it, if he insists on pursuing the title shot, they're going to have to find someone to match him against. And what's questionable there is, okay, who's going to stage this fight? On what card? Are they even going to be... it's a whole thing. It's bizarre mostly because Fresakendo is owed the shot and he's an essential component to the fight. So I don't even know how this whole thing's going to work out, but I'm going to follow the story. Why not? In other news, this image is straight from the page of Sergey Kovalev, Sergey Kovalev's Instagram page. And it appears he's enlisted the aid of veteran trainer Buddy Mcgirt. This is ahead of his proposed rematch with the new WBO champion, Eleider Alvarez. Sergey Kovalev is starting his camp for that fight, and he's enlisting the help of Buddy Mcgirt for this fight, this upcoming fight. And you really got to ask yourself right now, of course, if they had more time, if they had built synergy, a partnership between Kovalev and Mcgirt could be very fruitful. But this, the fact that...
Didn't he just break in a new trainer?
I don't know what's going to come of this, you understand? I don't know that Sergey's going to win this rematch. I don't know that. How do you guys feel right now? How did you guys feel when you first heard that there was going to be a rematch right after? And how do you feel now that he's enlisted the aid of Buddy Mcgirt? Do you feel that it will make a difference? Remember, Sergey Kovalev was already breaking in a new trainer
Before this.
in the Michalkin fight, in the Shabransky fight, and things were looking good. But we see how it all turned out when Kovalev had to fight a guy who could really fight back.
Wasn't a stiff.
Fight a guy who actually was a conceivable threat. We see how it worked out.
Not for the better.
Sergey got dropped 3 times. Okay? So I see him here with Buddy Mcgirt, and there are scenarios that presents. Maybe Buddy Mcgirt can give him something that this new trainer that he had couldn't give him. Maybe. But you know, this relationship is just starting.
Seriously.
The most I can say is I'm ambivalent. I don't know what Buddy Mcgirt could bring to the table for Sergey at this point that would help him win this rematch. This entire situation reminds me of when Teddy Atlas paired up with Tim Bradley for that brief period, and Tim was a fireman for a brief period. But that didn't last very long, and I feel that there's something very similar to that here. You know, I'll just put it to you this way. Ahead of this rematch, do you guys trust Sergey with your money? Even with Buddy Mcgirt in his corner, do you trust him with your money? If you had to bet on it, would you bet on Sergey Kovalev to win this rematch? And if so, how much would you be willing to gamble? Because that's what really tells the story.